What's up, guys? This video I'm going to break down how I learned one of the most important skills for being successful with women, which is the art of not giving a fuck, and how you can as well. Learning not to give a fuck is one of the most important mindsets you can develop when it comes to being successful with women and social situations in general. Most men are not in this category though. Most men very much do give a fuck. They're worried about offending the girl. They're worried about, getting a bad rep in their social circle. They're worried about any kind of negative outcome. They think everyone is thinking about them, and that manifests through their words and actions. They're self-conscious. They don't really go for it. They're afraid to tell a joke. They're afraid to be polarizing. They're too in their head. Instead of playing to win, they're playing not to lose. And I was very much in this category when I was growing up, right? I was very self-conscious. I would spend 2 minutes talking to a girl and then 2 hours thinking about how I did, beating myself up, thinking, oh man, she's thinking about me. She thinks I'm a weirdo, right? I was really worried about just fucking up, about saying something that rubs people the wrong way, and just being ostracized from the social community, right? In my high school and college. And this started to change when I got to university. I met a friend named S, and he was very similar to me in a lot of ways, but the big difference was he didn't give a fuck at all. And I started observing how when me and him would go out, even though we're very similar, we'd have completely different reactions when it came to women and just social situations in general. People gravitate towards him a lot more. He got a lot more girls. He just got a lot more people laughing at his jokes. And again, the only difference that I could observe is that he didn't give a fuck. So I started noticing that there's a lot of power to this. And this was really cemented during an experience we had. So at this point, he had already transferred to a different university. I went to visit him. We went on a snowboarding trip. So they had a snowboarding house, and the rule was that if you don't go to school, you have to pay $100 per person per night. It was me, him, and his brother who also didn't go to university. So on the third day, when we had already stayed there, the captain of the snowboarding team arrives. He looks at us and he says, well, you guys don't go here, so you owe us $300, so $600 total. Now, in my mind, I started freaking out. So as soon as the captain leaves, I say to us, I'm like, dude, I can't afford this, fuck, we're fucked. You told me it was gonna be free, like blah, blah, blah. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, we better sneak out here in the middle of the night. They're not gonna, so they don't notice us. He's like, nah, bro, don't worry about it. You're freaking out. Let me take care of it. So the next day, S wakes up at like 2 p.m. I'm sitting in my room, like fucking pulling an Anne Frank, just freaking out, worried that, someone's gonna say something. S just confidently walks over to the living room, grabs a cup of coffee. He sees the captain sitting there, pats him on the back and says, we'll see you later, man. And then we just drive off. And in my mind, I was convinced that something bad was gonna happen. I was convinced that someone was gonna say anything. And this made me realize how quite often, when you don't give a fuck, nothing bad happens. You can just get away with a lot of different shit. And throughout our friendship, I got to observe us getting away with such massive amounts of shit that I thought would get me fucked, right? Because he simply didn't give a fuck. And I started realizing there's a lot of power to this. So the next step is you might be thinking, okay, well, this is awesome, but how do I learn not to give a fuck? And it comes down to 2 things. The first thing is realizing a series of epiphanies that I had. 3 epiphanies specifically. The first one is probably the most key one, and this is that nothing bad is gonna happen. So in your mind, you're convinced the reason you give a fuck is because you think the girl's gonna hate you, you're gonna get ostracized from the social community, you think you're gonna get in trouble, you think you're gonna get kicked out of the bar, you think this or that. But quite often, it's all in your head. Nothing really is gonna happen. Now look, I'm not saying you should walk around the hood slapping girls on the ass, you wanna use some common sense, but quite often, especially in social situations, you think that, there's gonna be this big price to pay, but quite often there's not. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have any empathy. Yes, you should have a little bit of empathy, but realize that, again, nothing bad is gonna happen. The second one is gonna be that no one cares. So basically, you're thinking that, oh shit, everyone's thinking about me. If I say this, everyone's gonna judge me. But then you realize that no one cares. No one is thinking about you. Everyone's too self-absorbed. You can be the weirdest motherfucker ever, and no one's really gonna give a shit. People just focus on themselves, and that's also a very powerful epiphany. And the last big one is that you have absolutely nothing to lose. Nothing at all, right? So when you're talking to girls, you're already at 0, so you can only go up, you can't go down. This is different than starting a business. When you start a business, if you fuck up, you can lose all your money, right? You can go down. In social situations, generally speaking, you can only go up. So let's say the worst case outcome, and you're super cringe, and you strike out with a girl, and you fuck things up, well, you're exactly where you started. Now you might be worried, well, what if she tells her friends, and they get ostracized? Unless you live in an extremely small town, this is not gonna happen. Usually people don't give a fuck. things are a lot more anonymous in cities than you think it is. So any medium or large size city, no one gives a fuck and there's absolutely no social consequences, right? So that's the first step, is adopting these mindsets and realizing that what I'm speaking here is truth. The second one is simply getting positive reference experiences. So you need to have an experience like mine where you realize that you just literally get to experience that nothing bad happens, right? And this will teach you the power of not giving a fuck. So now that you have the mindset, you need to go out there and practice not giving a fuck in order to really internalize this mindset and to get the positive reference experience where you start to see that when you go out there and you don't give a fuck, you actually get better reactions from girls in general, and that will reinforce your subconscious until the point where you truly start not giving a fuck. All right, hopefully you guys found this video valuable and shows that you don't give a fuck by smashing the like button, hitting subscribe, and clicking the bell for notification. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.